Hello. The MEF has made a huge impact on the world by developing standards and ecosystems around carrier Ethernet technology. Now it's time to take the next step towards the third network. The vision for the third network brings together the flexibility of the Internet with the robustness, quality and security of carrier Ethernet, MPLS and traditional VPNs. It really does take carrier Ethernet to the next level. So let's get some detail on that. Please welcome the inventor of Ethernet, Bob Metcalfe, to give us his visionary perspective.
The MEF has just announced what it generally calls the third network. Of course, those of us who have been around a long time think of it as the 287th network, but we're going to start counting over. I think in this context, the first network is the Internet itself, a best efforts, the famous 30, 40-year-old best efforts network. The second network are the private networks that have grown up around the Internet, for example, the interconnect data centers of the various big players. So we're calling it the third network because it's a positive combination of both of those. It has the agility of the Internet. It adds the reliability and quality of service you get with your own private network.
Can you tell us more about how the third network would work?
Well, in the grand scheme, you would, well, as Nan Chen, president of MEF, likes to say, you pick up the phone, you dial a number, and the connections of multiple carriers around the world are made automatically, and suddenly you have a quality connection the other end. That is a really good summary of how we would like the third network to work, although it wouldn't be a telephone. That is, you'd request through the network a provisioning of a certain SLA, certain speed and quality and security level. And then the network would then, in an automatic fashion, through cooperating softwares among the various carriers, would then complete that connection and make the guarantees of service and give you the kind of service that you wanted automatically and within seconds, not within months or days or even hours, but within seconds.
Let's drill down a bit. What are the key benefits of the third network?
So third network is network as a service, which is vision of MEF for the industry. It delivers three key characteristics. One is agility. That means that you can deliver on-demand services. And second is assured, which ability to deliver not only the performance, but also security assurances. Last but not least is orchestrated. That means orchestrated across multiple service providers' networks. The reason we launched this vision, we believe it's good for the industry, is because today there are two networks. One is the Internet, which gave you the agility as well as ubiquity, but doesn't have the service guarantees. And then you have a Carrier Ethernet 2.0 networks, which gave you the service assurance, but not as agile. So the third networks, it delivers the best of the both worlds. And for end user perspective, it's great. Personally, I travel a lot, and when I'm in the hotels, I want to have that connecting to the third network button, which I can have on-demand services guaranteed. And from a service provider perspective, it's really great because this is representing new services and represent new revenue, obviously.
Today, everyone has connectivity via the Internet. They've got ubiquity. Everybody can connect to everybody else. But so frequently, you run into issues where you don't have performance guarantees. You end up having to build security around the outside, et cetera. And especially on the performance side, that can degrade the quality of your experience tremendously. The other big network that exists, of course, is Carrier Ethernet. In the case where you need guaranteed quality of service, you can go get it. Unfortunately, it requires very long-term leases and it requires very long-term setup time. It's a very manual process often around the setup and establishment of these circuits. Anything you want to change takes a very long time. I think the third network, what it's trying to do is allow connectivity to be happening with quality in real time, ultimately getting to the point of customer self-serve, where you can actually go in, set up a connection from here to there with guaranteed quality, et cetera. And so the benefits for an enterprise customer is I have that agility. I can actually get connections from here to there without waiting really long times. I want to reconfigure my compute environment and I want to increase the capacity to that. I can do that under my own control in my own timeframes. So really important for the base connectivity. But I think in general, What it also does is allows for higher level applications that previously would end up in a really negative experience, makes them possible. So if, for example, you think about a video conference that takes place between two parties, if you don't have adequate underlying performance, you get degradation, you get delays, you end up speaking over each other, you have all kinds of issues with the quality of experience. And so it really limits what can happen. And as we get into machine-to-machine type of applications, et cetera, it becomes essential that that underlying infrastructure can deliver performance guarantees. And today, you've really got two choices: no guarantees, or very, very long setup times and very long leases on those connections.
And what's been the response from industry analysts?
It seems like it's a necessary evolution for the MEF to take. The way that Ethernet services have evolved from sort of initially figuring out a way to put in carrier Ethernet, then start to interconnect those networks, and then provide more management capability to those networks. We're coming to a step where there needs to be more nimble capabilities to layer applications and services on top of the Ethernet networks that have been deployed out there. So it's sort of a natural moving up the stack that the operators need, because they're going to have to build value for their customers. They don't want to just chase down the decreasing cost of capacity and the attractive price points of Ethernet services mean that eventually their margins go down. This is a way for them to look at new types of services that will provide the margins into the future.
So the third network isn't just a vision, it's real. Let's hear from the service providers how they plan to implement the third network vision.
It's interesting. I'm in my hotel room and I'm trying to do some work. I'm trying to download large files and I just don't have enough bandwidth. So if you think about what I would like, as a user, what I'd like to do is I'd just like to be able to dial up some more bandwidth, beyond what the hotel is normally providing me. And certainly for the convenience and to be able to support the applications that I'm looking to access, certainly that's something I'd pay for. But I think that's one small example. I think we'll see more and more of that as we go forward in the cloud environment. At a steady state, I may need a certain level of bandwidth, but there may be certain times, it could be when I'm doing massive analytics projects or certain other functions, I'm transferring large amounts of storage from one cloud provider or the other, that rather than trying to nail up a lot of extra bandwidth, I just like to be able to dial it up beyond what I'm paying for now. So I think we've only scratched the surface on what the third network can provide. I think it's an exciting concept. I think it will evolve over time, but I think there are some very valid use cases for it. The other that we see is we're a very large provider of internet services and Ethernet services to stadiums. So if you look at the bandwidth profile of a stadium, game day they may need 10 gig. And in fact, some of our customers, the 49ers in particular, need 10 gig on that one day, but there may be other times, as we think about into the future, where it may be a little bit more variable. Off-season may be a little bit less than on-season. So I think as we move forward and we're able to think through the aspects of third network, I start thinking about these types of use cases for variable bandwidth and being able to dial up large amounts of bandwidth.
Well, quite frankly, we're already in the process of doing that, as I have shared in a number of other forums. Ethernet as an infrastructure we feel is quite important as a foundation of any network connectivity delivery. Any application that ultimately is required by an end user, certainly in the enterprise, but also at the consumer layer, requires intelligent connectivity capability. And that's first through physical infrastructure. MEF's third network is actually thinking through the concepts that need to attach to that. All of the orchestration components, all of the software-defined network capabilities that would help deliver a different SDN acronym, a services delivery network, which I think is quite critical. Third network envisions an intelligent integration between a physical layer, a software layer, and all of the IT applicational elements underlying that, from both an OSS and BSS operating environment that's so critical to assure that end users are able to receive the services they require, and that service providers are able to deliver them either individually or in collaboration with others.
I think that we've acknowledged for some time that it's very important to have a way to accelerate delivery of particularly key applications, irrespective of where the end consumer of that service is. So we already announced a week ago a network working with 30 different service providers around the world, and a growing list to add to that, to implement in reality that vision. And then I think the big benefit that comes from the MEF's third network vision is the underpinnings that support that. So we've done something that is innovative and new in the market on the basis of what is able to be done technically today. And I think we can look forward to a time when the fruits of the labor that's been done in the MEF will then give us additional abilities that we can then use and build on with the service that we've already launched. So I think it's very positive, and I think also by us already executing a version of that third network vision, we're learning about how it needs to be implemented. Not just the technical aspects, but also the commercial aspects are important to deal with as well. So that learning for us is important, and hopefully that will also benefit our participation in the MEF.
And what about systems vendors? How are they approaching the third network?
Well, the construct really is that we have a transformation going on in the OTT space. People are using compute and storage in very elastic ways. And this has been built on top of the internet, which is a best effort, first come, first served, highly unreliable environment. It's fine for the leaf connections, your mobile device, your home PC, but it's not so good for people building up the infrastructure that underpin this new cloud-based application delivery network. So what we need is a network that is better suited to this data center interconnect and application hosting collaborative environment. And it's not just about getting access to the data center, it's about also interconnecting between different data centers globally. And what we need is a network that is much more responsive to unpredictable application demands. The current telecom network tends to be pretty static. You wire it up and you leave it for years. And the reason you leave it for years is you're too scared to touch it, because if you touch it, it might break. Also, usually it takes a tremendous amount of time to make these changes to the network configuration actually stick. What happens is you end up consuming a tremendous amount of effort and time to actually get all the necessary components properly configured and operational. Too expensive, too unreliable, and really a bad business. So what the third network promises is an environment that's much more responsive to these new applications. It's the future of networking. Really, to go back to the old days of telecom focused on PSTN, for example, is ridiculous. People are now using mobile and distributed applications, both in their home and personal lives through social media, but more importantly, as the underpinning of their business. So to focus telecom on the old when there is this new massive market, estimated by Google to be more than $1 trillion market, is just ridiculous. The telecom world has to evolve, move on, and not only participate in that $1 trillion opportunity, but also be relevant to the providers and purveyors of cloud applications. And that's the exciting thing about the third network. It has the promise of providing the agility that allows these application developers to dial up the services they need when they need them, under program control, and to take those services for just the amount of time that they need, not be burdened by long-term contracts when they really don't know how the future is going to unfold. So you want to be able to have an agile environment where you can respond to market needs quickly and take on less risk, just the same way as Amazon offers people the flexibility to take on compute on a on-demand basis. We need the networking space to follow exactly the same model. And I think the MEF's focus on this is critical. Clearly, it's a big challenge for incumbent providers who have a much more manual and human process-oriented approach at the moment. but it's essential. And I think the bottom line is it's going to happen anyway. We see the OTTs doing it themselves, often bypassing the incumbent carriers. And I think it's an opportunity that will be lost for those carriers that don't jump in and take advantage of the new technologies that are evolving and being supported by the MEF.
I think we passed the stage of Carrier Ethernet 1 that was really defining the language, actually the services, being technology agnostic, and obviously we moved into Carrier Ethernet 2.0 that was delivered more services, differentiated services, manageability, and actually interconnected networks. I think the first stage is all about automation. Speaking about automation, that's supposed to give the possibility to the network to interact with applications and vice versa, eventually give the statuses of the network and the availability of new opportunities of on-demand. This is the stage that will require massive ecosystem and standard APIs when looking on the possibilities in the network. It will involve a lot of standardization facts that will be required because we have trillions of dollars of installed base. This is a reality we need to cope with. And those are the facts that will require from us a lot of efforts as a community and MEF in its definition of new APIs to enable it.
So the MEF's third network initiative is not just a vision, it's real, and we are poised to reap the benefits.